Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It is my pleasure to introduce Andrea Mendoza, who is joining us. She is the program manager for Roatan Marine Park in Honduras, and she's a Lakeside Fellow for a second year in a row at California Academy of Sciences. We're so happy to be able to have Andrea share with us updates about our achievements and challenges overcome in our first year of our CORDAP project, which is the CORDAP project. Thank you so much, Andrea, for being here today and sharing all of the incredible work that's been happening both at Cal Academy and in Honduras in the last year.
So, good morning. Thank you for that, Elora, and thank you to everyone joining us in the room and to everyone also joining us virtually. My name is Andrea Godoy Mendoza. I am Program Manager for Roatan Marine Park, and today I have the pleasure of discussing with you some of the updates that come from my organization, as well as to discuss some project achievements and challenges that we've had in the past year. The outline of this presentation includes a little bit of an organizational overview for RMP. Also, to put you into context, we're going to discuss a bit about the geographical and situational context of the organization and the marine protected area that we work in. And then we will cover, of course, the achievements and challenges for our CORDAP project year 1. First of all, this is our team. We are a non-governmental, nonprofit marine conservation organization. We are registered in both Honduras and the United States as a 501c3, and our main role is the co-management of the marine protected area known as the Bay Islands National Marine Park. This is actually one of the most important marine protected areas in the country, one of the largest ones as well. And since 2005, since the inception of the organization, we have been spearheading conservation efforts through our different programs and through the different activities that we carry out. Our mission is to inspire, educate, and empower communities and visitors to conserve and protect marine environments for the benefit of all. And our vision is to have healthy marine environments in the Bay Islands and thriving communities now and into the future. Now, I mentioned the word co-management earlier in the presentation, and here I'm going to explain what exactly that means. In Honduras, we have a figure in which the general government body or the general government institutions are able to relay responsibilities to civil organization institutions such as Roatan Marine Park to manage and have a say, make decisions about what happens in protected areas around the country. Here you will see how this management scheme works. We have the administrator, which is the general government. This is actually the National Conservation Institute for Forestry, Development, Wildlife, and Protected Areas, for short ICF, for their Spanish name. And then there is other figures such as the central government. We have different institutions such as the Agriculture Secretariat, the Environment Secretariat, and others. And then on a closer level to where we operate, we have the local government, which involves all of the municipalities. These are the smaller figures of government that we have in the country. And then on the fourth level is the people that are actually present in these marine protected areas. And these are the entities that have been granted the responsibility to manage what happens in these protected areas. As you can see, not only Roatan Marine Park is included in this level of this co-management scheme. We have other institutions such as the Bay Islands Conservation Association, which has 3 chapters, 1 on each of the sister islands. And of course, a lot of the operations and the activities that we carry out within the institution and within the MPA are thanks to our supporting organizations such as Coral Reef Alliance, or Coral, Healthy Reefs for Healthy People, and MAR Alliance. Now, I'm sure most of you know this, but Honduras is at the very heart of the Central American region. We are bordering with Nicaragua, Salvador, and Guatemala. And as such, we are part of the Mesoamerican Reef region, or the Mesoamerican Reef System. As you probably know, this is the second largest barrier reef in the world, only topped by the Great Barrier Reef over in Australia. And this area that we have here stretches along 4 countries, along the coast of 4 countries: Mexico, Belize, Guatemala, and Honduras. So a lot of efforts are carried out in this region together among the 4 countries in order to protect this shared valuable resource that we have. This is a map of the protected areas that we have in Honduras, and you will see at the very top on the northern coast, on that like aqua green bubble, there are 3 small pieces of land known as the Bay Islands of Honduras. They are probably one of the northernmost points of the country, and that is actually where we conduct a lot of our work. There are 3 islands, and the 3 islands make up the Bay Islands National Marine Park. However, most of our operations are carried out within Roatan, which is a center island and the biggest one by far. The total area of the Bay Islands National Marine Park encompasses a really a wide variety of different submarine protected areas. There are special marine protected zones, economic development specialized zones, and you see here in this map some of those differentiations, and that is the total area, approximate total area of what we have for this specific protected area. Now, specifically about the Marine Park, we focus most of our work within 5 major programs. The first one is marine infrastructure, which I will go into right now. This is actually a community service that we are able to provide, and it's aimed to protect coral and living species. Roatan Marine Park actually installs over 95% of the infrastructure that you see around the island. That includes dive and yacht moorings, demarcation and channel markers, swim zones. This is normally a responsibility that falls on the government, but as co-managers, that is something that we are happy to do because we ensure that there is no occurrence of anchoring, collisions, fuel exposure on the reef, and other things that could impact the security and the logistics for boat owners. Just to show you what has been going on with this specific program, up to this date, we have installed over 350 dive and snorkel sites. They are all marked and geo-referenced, and they are in a map that anyone can easily access and use. We have over 200 channel markers, and up to this date, I think we have installed over 30 yacht moorings. All of this, again, to prevent any damage on the reef. Then we have another very important program. This was actually the emblematic program with which the organization started. It was originally our patrols program, but now it's our patrols, protection, and surveillance program. This enables us to facilitate enforcement of the Honduran environmental laws, regulations, and best practices. We actually team up with the Honduran Navy, as you can see from that photo, because even though we are co-managers, we are not an authority that is able to process any infractors in a legal fashion. We need to have the presence of either the Navy, the Merchant Navy, or other government institutions in order to proceed legally against anyone conducting any unsustainable or illegal activities. This program helps in protecting key species such as corals, turtles, sharks. It also is probably one of the programs that is dealing with the community in the closest fashion, and we prohibit the use of nets, fish and lobster traps, spear guns and slings, and anything that is unsustainable, such as commercial fisheries. All of that is not permitted within the MPA. We have the privilege of running 6 different vessels for patrolling purposes. We also have 1 beach patrol ranger in the West Bay Beach area to support any type of activities that might occur there. There is 1 patrols coordinator managing all of the team, and as I mentioned, 5 different patrol boats that go through the different areas outlined in this slide. Additionally, all of the data that we are able to collect from these efforts goes into SMART, which is a reporting tool, spatial monitoring and reporting tool. So all of our information that is collected through this program is transmitted directly to government entities in order to aid in better decisions and better management strategies. We also have our education and outreach programs. As the name says, we are very closely working with the community for many different purposes. We train marine recreational providers. We also train fisher associations. We work very closely with restaurants, hotels, and dive shops to increase and raise awareness. And we also carry out conservation activities and campaigns, such as beach cleanups, mangrove restoration efforts, and other waste management campaigns. These are just some of the activities that are carried out through this program. And these are just some of the examples of the educational materials that are provided for free by Roatan Marine Park in order to increase the awareness and to have more responsible visitors, given that this is a very, it's a highly touristy area. Very closely related, we have the Community Development Program, and this basically focuses on the well-being of the communities that are dependent on the resources that we all share and that we as an organization seek to conserve. We aim to inspire the next generation of locals and to have them become engaged and empowered in their roles as community members, and to get them involved in marine conservation efforts. These are just some of the initiatives that come from this program. One that I'm very proud to talk about is the Ocean Youth Program. We reached out to local youths between the ages of 15 to 17, and we were able to get at least 8 of them trained all the way up to advanced open water divers. And not only that, they did their coral restoration course with us, and they were trained in many different aspects. And through the generous support of a lot of our donors, we have been able to actually pay them for the activities that they get involved in with RMP. So that's something that we're definitely very proud of. Now, research, this is the program that I am in charge of and that I'm very proud to be presenting results on. We work on many different aspects, but our forte is coral restoration. We do both asexual and assisted sexual propagation efforts. And then we also do fish spawning aggregation sites monitoring, where for about 8 months a year, we monitor 2 sites so far where we have confirmed that there is the presence of these really big populations of grouper and snappers, and we monitor their populations. And this data also, we hope will aid in better management practices and decisions within the MPA. A little bit about our asexual coral restoration project. We work with 3 species of the Acropora genus, Cervicornis, Palmata, and Prolifera. We propagate these into these structures, and then we also offer a coral restoration course, which consists of 2 separate modules that enables any proficient diver that is interested in helping our reef to maintain and monitor these structures and also conduct outplanting efforts. We currently have over 40 of these structures in Roatan at a site called Sequas Deep, and we are soon to launch a nursery that's going to be a table nursery exclusively for Acropora palmata. And through this project, we consistently implement innovative coral restoration techniques, such as microfragmentation, and very recently, we started to apply some shading structures in order to prevent a little bit of that light stress that we have seen on our corals. I'm sure everyone in this room and probably everyone watching knows what fragmentation entails, but this is just a little bit of a difference between fragmentation and microfragmentation. We actually obtain smaller cuts from parent colonies using the band saw machine that you see there. These small fragments are then attached to specialized plugs, and then they are kept in specific environments for them, still within the Sequas Deep nursery. These are just some of the differences in the structures that we use. That is the classic Christmas tree structure that you see there to my right. And then closer to me, we have the microfragmentation tree structures, which instead of having fragments hang from a monofilament, we actually place them on nets to ensure that they're receiving sufficient light. Now, another big part of what we do is our coral spawning monitoring. Roatan Marine Park was able to develop the first ever coral spawning prediction calendar for Honduras. And since 2022, we have been collecting data and validating this information to put out for the rest of the country. As you probably know, coral spawning is an event that occurs once a year. It is affected by the lunar cycle, influenced by water temperature and the sunset time. And recently, the moon set time as well. Here is a small video, hopefully it will play, of Diploria labyrinthiformis or grooved brain coral spawn. Okay. Okay, apologies for the technical difficulties. Okay, I think that's complete. I apologize. If you would like to see those videos, I can show them later on. But basically, after we have conducted these efforts, we do it a little bit differently than how it happens here at the Coral Regeneration Lab. We take bigger nets and we place them on colonies on the reef, and we are out in the water for anywhere between an hour to 2 hours, hoping to collect these valuable gametes, as you can see in the photo farthest to my left. And then we do a process of combining all of these gametes obtained from these efforts. And then once fertilization is confirmed, we use this process called in situ larval rearing. Before we do any of the coral spawning monitoring activities, we use these structures that you see right here. They are referred to as seeding units or substrates. These need to be placed on the reef anywhere between 2 to 3 months prior to the spawning event to collect, to have the growth of an organism called Crusoe's coralline algae overgrowing these substrates. And this Crusoe's coralline algae, or CCA, sort of attracts coral larvae to settle. And these substrates are later placed into these structures, which are the coral rearing in situ basins, also known as cribs. In there, we have thousands of these substrates that have been previously acclimated. And then once we confirm fertilization, like you saw from these photos, we deploy all of those embryos into the structure, wait for about a month, and then once we confirm that there has been settlement of these recruits on these substrates, we conduct outplanting efforts. This is an image that one of our partners shared with us. This is how grooved brain coral recruits look like right on one of these substrates. There are 5 there. They still don't have the symbiont, so they look a little bit colorless, but they are very much alive and thriving. Back in 2022, we were able to validate 5 species for our calendar, and we monitored 4 sites. This was the very first time that we were able to conduct an assisted sexual fertilization effort, and CAS representatives were there for this very special milestone for the team and for the organization. In 2023, we were collecting more data. We were able to include 4 additional species for a total of 9 species validated in Roatan. We aimed to conduct 2 assisted sexual fertilization efforts, one for grooved brain coral, one for elkhorn coral, but unfortunately, we were only able to do that for grooved brain coral. And then we also began the work for the Coral Restoration Center, which I will be discussing more very soon. All right, now specifically for our CORDAP project, we were able to finally land on a design for the Coral Restoration Center of Roatan. That is not the official diagram, but just to show you what the structures are going to look like once we have them on site. I have some photos that you will see later on. We have also managed to strengthen capacities. We have shared all of the acquired knowledge through the different partnerships that we have been able to secure and share this knowledge with other homologous NGOs, the government representatives, to get them involved, and not only involved, but empowered in these type projects. We have trained over 25 individuals from government institutions and other NGOs, all the way up to advanced open water, and that enables them to partake in our coral spawning monitoring activities. They're able to see through a hands-on experience what this is like and why it is so important to keep pursuing this type of work. Thanks to that, we have been able to continue collecting data for the validation of our spawning prediction calendar. And we hope to be able to validate this very soon. Also this year, we were able to host our CAS team in Roatan. We had a very productive week. We were monitoring for Orbicella faviolata and Orbicella annularis, or mountainous star coral spawning. We were there. They were able to meet a lot of our partners, and they give a really interesting presentation on the results so far and the work being carried out here in San Francisco. Then this is the second time that our team has been present for a Spawnathon event, and we're very proud to be here for another year. We were able to have 2 team members come here and assist in all Spawnathon activities, and I'm happy to report that we have a bunch of babies. Now, this is a little bit of the process and what the construction of the Coral Restoration Center of Roatan looks like. This used to be an area where we were just hosting visitors and conducting tours, but now it will be this the very first ever ex-situ coral larval rearing facility in the country, potentially even the region, and we are super proud. It has been a little bit difficult. Honduran bureaucracy often hinders some of these processes, but we have made giant strides when it comes to the construction. This is what it looks like now. Of course, it looks a lot better now. These are a little bit updated photos, but where you see on the lower corner to your right, where you see those cement structures, that is where we will have 4 raceways in which we will conduct different experiments, where we will hold substrates, where we will have parent colonies for many different purposes, and we're very excited. And then the next few slides should show what the process of bringing that container into the country was like. In the next few slides. All right. Now, speaking of this container, there have been some challenges. As much as we have achieved a lot in the years that we have been collaborating, the container importation process took a little bit longer than we had expected. There were some additional permitting required, but I'm happy to report that that is already dealt with, and we now have the container on site, which I will show you soon. We have had some events and some circumstances that have hindered our coral restoration efforts, specifically through assisted sexual fertilization. And this is mostly due to a massive coral bleaching event and subsequent massive mortality that we had back in 2023. As you can see from this photo, the snorkeler actually looks fairly content, but if you pay close attention to the reef, that is a dead reef. And that actually used to be the most biodiverse, highest coral covered site on the island, known as Cordelia Banks. And that is, it used to be our seeding area for a lot of our coral restoration efforts. And now, unfortunately, due to these events, it is no more. However, there are some happy things to report on. The container finally made it to Roatan on September 9th, and we were able to get it released on the 20th. You can see from the very top photo, that is the first proof of life that we were able to share with our team here in San Francisco. And then very happy, very tired me with all of the machinery and all of the materials that were necessary to bring that into the very crowded space that we have into our office. And last but not least, very, very happy part of our team for finally having that container on site and excited for everything that's to come. All right, let's see if these videos will play. Okay, that is when we first saw it, that hadn't yet been released. It was in perfect state. We were extremely happy. And then this is a video of when it was finally being deployed on the bases that were constructed. A short video, they had to bring in really big machinery to pull it into the space, this huge crane, but then it was finally deployed, and we are hoping to have the final installation and commissioning and latter inauguration in early 2025. So stay tuned for those updates. Now, as I mentioned, there was this massive bleaching event that we had last year, and there is this organization that since 2003 has been recording information about reef health in the whole Mesoamerican reef region. They produced this very important tool known as the Reef Health Report Card. And if you would like access to this information, I would be happy to share it. The 2024 report just came out. These are a bit of outdated information, but one of the key takeaways from what we got from this report is that live coral coverage went from 46% to 5% in just a year's time. And these are specific numbers for that site that I mentioned as Cordelia Banks. These are photos of what it looks like. It used to be brimming with Acropora palmata, Acropora cervicornis, finger coral everywhere, lettuce coral everywhere, a lot of fish diversity, very, very low macroalgae coverage. And we saw in 2023, in the late summer, temperatures started to considerably increase. We started to see about 33 to 34 on the surface, and then even at depths up to 12 meters, we were still seeing over 30s. with our sensors and our temperature loggers. And of course, this was extremely stressful for our reefs. This interfered with our coral spawning monitoring, even though we went out every month and we followed all of the windows that we had originally predicted. We were not able to report or to collect sufficient spawning in both 2023 and 2024 due to the immense stress that our reefs are under. However, not all is lost, and that is exactly what we are doing with this collaboration. This is the work that is being carried out here at the California Academy of Sciences, and that will later be applied on Roatan. We are focusing our efforts on doing research on coral rearing therapies to limit the early life coral mortality. And the way that we do this is through 4 different interventions. Basically, as you likely know, we are monitoring for spawning at the Coral Regeneration Lab for Acropora mellifera species. We collect these gametes, we conduct fertilization for all of them, and then these are separated in order to be submitted to the different interventions. This year, we are prioritizing 2 of these interventions that have yielded the most exciting preliminary results. As you can see here from the data shared by the CAST team, we were able to observe that recruits that were exposed to the buffered seawater intervention showed 356% higher survival rates than those in the control group, which is extremely exciting. And then also the recruits that were exposed to heat stress are showing 511% higher survival than those recruits in the control group. So this year we are continuing to do this work. We have had 2 very successful spawning days. We have been able to collect gametes to conduct these experiments. So we will be updating everyone about this very, very soon. And last but not least, these are just some of the members of our team in Roatan that are working and applying this knowledge. Some of them have been present here at the Academy for the Spawnathon of 2023 and hands-on involvement back in Roatan with all of the operations of the research team. That being said, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for being here. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them now.
Thank you so much. We can start if there's any questions in the room, and we can also have questions if anyone wants to type in the chat online. Please add your questions to the chat and we will read them aloud.
So how successful have you been with, so that you had youth groups, but I'm curious. Have there been, and other, I'm not a visual guy, so I'm not a novelist, but I've seen some of the other groups that get involved with local government, to make an actual people in the community. What kind of success have you had with that? Like, do people, the average person know about what you're doing?
That's a really good question, and I think it's something that we definitely deal with as an NGO. We specifically talking about the Ocean Youth Program, I will say that one of the biggest challenges was getting enough people to participate in the activities. Even though the locals live right by the ocean, live right by the beach, they're not entirely familiar with what is right on their backyards. Most of them have never seen the reef. They have never gone out and snorkeled. So I would say that we still have a lot of work to do to reach more people within Roatan to know about our work and the activities that we are doing. But once we are able to secure initial involvement and to light that initial spark, we tend to have a very long-lasting and fruitful relationship with those that get involved. The kids that started in 2022 are actually still helping us with all of our conservation endeavors. They have been involved in coral spawning monitoring, which is something that a lot of people, even adults, can only dream of. So I would say we have, say, a 50-50. And it depends on what groups you reach out to. Sometimes it's a lot easier to reach out to, for example, the diving community. They're super open to help, to get involved. But sometimes there's other businesses like restaurants and resorts that are a little bit harder to get to at times. But we're working towards increasing the likelihood of people knowing about what we do. And not only that, but also becoming actively engaged and to have them know more than just the basics of what Roatan Marine Park is.
Any other questions? I think we talked about this before, but I am wondering, since the Mesoamerican Reef is 4 countries, to what extent there is intergovernmental or interagency collaboration in managing between North and Mexico, or managing the whole region, or if there is really kind of siloed without that collaboration.
Andrea, will you repeat the question into the microphone?
Sure. Yes, so Dr. Albright was asking if there is direct collaboration between the governments of the 4 countries that are included in the Mesoamerican Reef region, or if this is something that is mostly isolated between countries. I can answer to this question based on my own experience. I think we still have to make a lot of progress when it comes to generating those intergovernmental cooperations or collaborations. There's a lot of networks within the region of like coral restoration practitioners, or people who work on fish spawning aggregation monitoring, or people who monitor sargassum, for example. But at a government level, we still need to achieve that cohesiveness. One key problem that I can probably pinpoint right now, there is this river called the Rio Motagua, River Motagua, that is the border between Honduras and Guatemala. And it has showed to be one of the biggest pollutants of the reef, even showing hospital waste, a lot of solid waste. And our governments still have not been able to get together to figure out a solution for that very dire situation and very dire problem. So I would say we're still not at an ideal status when it comes to intergovernmental cooperation, but there are a bunch of different institutions and networks that are trying to bridge those gaps. I would like to mention MPA Connect, for example. They do a lot of good work of bringing in coral restoration practitioners, NGO representatives, inviting us to workshops, inviting us to learning exchanges. And for example, I'm in Honduras, but I know what's going on in Belize, and I know what my homologous partners are doing in the different regions. But we need to still do more work when it comes to generating government cooperation.
And then I guess the follow-up question to that is there a lot known about kind of the physical, like oceanography of the region in terms of sources and reefs and connectivity between the various regions of the like between the Bay Islands and then also the Mesoamerican Reef, if you wanted to source and sink reef protection strategy? Is that pretty well documented?
Okay, so Dr. Albright's follow-up question is basically wondering if there is studies or sufficient knowledge about the interconnection between the Bay Islands and the rest of the Mesoamerican Reef and vice versa. In my experience, when I have looked for this specific type of information to understand, for example, how currents affect specific areas of the country or specific marine protected areas, there isn't a lot of information. I don't want to say there isn't any, but I think that any information that we might have could be very outdated, could be not super reliable anymore. The circumstances on the reef have changed even from not only this year, but 5 years ago, 10 years ago, more recently in just the last couple of months. So there needs to be more research in order to understand how there is interconnectivity. I am aware that there are some efforts such as trying to determine whether there is a genetic connection between populations of acroporids in the whole of the Mesoamerican region. There are similar studies being carried out for fish spawning aggregation sites to see if there is genetic similarities or if the populations are the same on the different FSA sites around the region. But specifically, say, currents or waste or other types of parameters, we still need to incur more in those aspects. I wouldn't say there is sufficient to make decisions that could yield broader impact for the marine protected areas.
Any other questions?
All right, Well, thank you very much, everyone, for your time. We really appreciate you joining. To everyone joining us virtually, greatly appreciate it. And if you have any questions or if you would like to follow our work, go to our social media that I think you can still see on my screen. And a special thank you to Dr. Rebecca Albright, Dr. Alora Lopez-Nandam, Lisa Larkin, and the whole California Academy team for welcoming us here, for making us feel at home, for teaching us a bunch of stuff that we didn't even know that we could know. And I'm very much looking forward to applying everything that we have learned in Roatan. So thank you very much.